Let me start with this truth. Real love doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers in the moments when things feel uncertain, when life is messy, and when emotions aren't perfectly wrapped in confidence. If this person truly loves you, you'll see it not in grand gestures, but in their steady presence. They stay curious about your world. They make room for your feelings. They choose you even when it would be easier not to. Here's the educational lesson most people miss. Doubt does not automatically mean danger. Growth, fear, and vulnerability can exist alongside genuine love. When someone keeps showing up, keeps listening, and keeps adjusting rather than disappearing, that is not accidental, that is intention. So before you give up, pause. Ask yourself whether you're reacting to temporary discomfort or long-term reality. Love that is real deserves patience, awareness, and the courage to stay just a little longer. Love is revealed through consistency, not chemistry alone, and not the poetry of someone's words in a perfect moment. Anyone can say the right thing when emotions are high or when they fear losing you. Words are easy when they cost nothing. What actually teaches you whether someone truly loves you is what they do when it would be more convenient not to try. Consistent action is love translated into behavior. This matters because the human brain is highly reactive to language. Compliments, future promises, and emotional declarations trigger hope and attachment. But consistency operates on a different system. It is built over time, repetition, and reliability. When someone checks in without being reminded, follows through on what they said they would do, respects your boundaries even when it frustrates them, and remains emotionally present during conflict, they are demonstrating investment. That investment is not accidental. It requires effort, regulation, and choice. Consistency also shows up in how someone treats you on ordinary days, not just on birthdays, crises, or moments of romance, but on random Tuesdays when nothing exciting is happening. Love that is real doesn't disappear when life becomes routine. It adapts, it stays engaged. It may not always be perfect, but it remains recognizable. The person who truly loves you doesn't make you feel safe only when things are going well. They create emotional safety through predictability. This is important because inconsistency creates anxiety. When someone's behavior swings between intense affection and emotional absence, it confuses the nervous system. Many people mistake that confusion for passion. In reality, it is instability. Consistent action calms rather than overwhelms. It allows trust to grow because you are no longer guessing where you stand. You don't have to decode mixed signals or chase reassurance. Their behavior answers the question before you even ask it. Another key educational point is that consistency does not mean perfection. Loving action includes repair. When someone makes a mistake, do they acknowledge it? Do they take responsibility and adjust their behavior? Someone who loves you doesn't defend their ego at the expense of your feelings. They are willing to learn how to love you better. That willingness, shown repeatedly, is far more valuable than flawless behavior. It's also essential to understand that promises are only meaningful when they align with patterns. A future that is always discussed but never built is not evidence of love. Action is the bridge between intention and reality. When someone slowly integrates you into their life, prioritizes time, and aligns decisions with what they say matters to them, they are building something real. Love lives in follow-through. Consistency teaches you how to evaluate relationships with clarity instead of fear. Instead of asking, do they love me? You begin asking, what do their actions show me over time? This shift empowers you. It moves you away from emotional guessing games and toward grounded awareness. When love is genuine, it doesn't require constant convincing. It reveals itself steadily, quietly, and repeatedly through action. True care is rarely loud when it matters most. In fact, one of the clearest educational lessons about love is that it often shows itself in understated, almost unremarkable ways during moments of difficulty. When life becomes heavy, confusing, or emotionally uncomfortable, many people pull away, not because they are bad, but because discomfort exposes the depth of their capacity. The person who truly cares does not need to perform affection when things are easy. Their care becomes visible when circumstances are inconvenient. From a psychological perspective, stressful moments activate self-preservation. People default to protecting their time, energy, and emotions. This is why difficult phases in a relationship are revealing. When someone stays present while you are struggling, listens without rushing to fix or dismiss, and tolerates emotional tension instead of escaping it, they are showing care that goes beyond surface-level attraction. This type of presence requires emotional maturity. It means choosing connection over comfort. Quiet care often looks like patience. It's the person who gives you space without withdrawing love, who checks in gently instead of demanding emotional clarity before you are ready. It's someone who doesn't punish you for being overwhelmed, fearful, or unsure. Instead of making your difficult moments about themselves, they remain grounded. Educationally, this is important because many people confuse intensity with care. They expect dramatic reassurance or constant verbal validation. Yet real care is steady, calm, and non-invasive. Another sign of true care is emotional containment. When you express vulnerability, does the other person become defensive, dismissive, or emotionally unavailable? Or do they stay regulated, allowing your feelings to exist without escalation? Someone who cares deeply understands that love is not about winning arguments or being right. It is about creating safety. During challenging moments, they prioritize understanding over control. True care is also visible in how someone handles your fears. Rather than minimizing them or telling you to get over it, they try to understand where those fears come from. They don't shame your sensitivity or use your vulnerability against you later. This is subtle but powerful. It teaches you that you don't have to armor yourself in order to stay connected. Over time, this builds trust, not through words, but through emotional experience. It's also important to recognize that quiet care does not seek applause. The person who truly cares doesn't keep score or remind you of everything they've done for you during hard times. They don't weaponize their support later. Their help is not a transaction. This distinction matters because conditional support creates pressure, whereas genuine care creates relief. You feel lighter in their presence, not indebted. Difficult moments act as emotional truth serum. They reveal whether someone is attached to the idea of you or committed to the reality of you. The reality includes stress, uncertainty, mood changes, and growth phases. Someone who loves the reality does not disappear when the fantasy fades. They adjust their expectations and stay engaged. Quiet care teaches you how love should feel in its healthiest form. It doesn't add chaos to your pain. It doesn't demand performance when you are already exhausted. It steadies you. If someone consistently shows up during uncomfortable seasons, even imperfectly, that is not coincidence. That is care expressed through choice, presence, and emotional responsibility. Giving up too soon is often less about the relationship itself and more about discomfort with uncertainty. Educationally, this is important because the human mind is wired to seek emotional relief. When something feels unclear, tense, or emotionally demanding, the brain looks for the fastest way to reduce stress. Walking away can feel like clarity, but relief is not the same as truth. Many meaningful connections are lost not because they were wrong, but because they reached a phase that required patience instead of impulse. Long-term value in relationships rarely reveals itself during the early stages when excitement does the emotional W. For you. Depth is built later, when attraction alone is no longer enough to carry the bond. This is where many people misinterpret struggle as incompatibility. In reality, struggle can be a signal that something real is forming and asking for maturity, communication, and emotional growth. Giving up at this stage can mean abandoning a connection just as it is transitioning from surface level to substantial. Another educational point is that doubt is not automatically a warning sign. Doubt often appears when vulnerability increases. As emotional investment grows, so does the fear of loss. The mind may respond by questioning everything, the person, the timing, even your own feelings. This doesn't mean the relationship is wrong. It means it matters. People frequently mistake fear for intuition, especially when they haven't learned how to sit with emotional discomfort. It's also crucial to distinguish between temporary difficulty and persistent misalignment. Temporary difficulty looks like miscommunication, stress from external pressures, or fear-driven distancing that is followed by effort and repair. Persistent misalignment, on the other hand, shows up as repeated disregard, lack of effort, or values that never converge. Educational clarity comes from observing patterns over time, not reacting to isolated moments. Giving up too soon prevents you from collecting the data needed to make a grounded decision. There is also an internal dimension to this. Sometimes giving up feels easier because it protects identity. Staying means admitting you care, risking rejection, tolerating emotional exposure. For many people, independence has been confused with emotional avoidance. Leaving early can feel empowering, but it can also reinforce a pattern of self-protection that limits intimacy. Growth often requires staying long enough to learn something about yourself, even if the relationship doesn't last forever. Another overlooked lesson is that healthy relationships still require effort. Effort is not a sign of imbalance. Avoidance of effort is. When both people are willing to reflect, adjust, and communicate, difficulty becomes a shared challenge rather than a reason to exit. Giving up too soon can mean bypassing the opportunity to learn how to navigate conflict constructively, which is a skill that benefits every future relationship as well. This does not mean tolerating disrespect or ignoring your needs. Not giving up too soon is about discernment, not endurance. It means asking better questions instead of making fast exits. Are concerns being acknowledged? Is there movement, even if slow? Is there mutual willingness to grow? If the answer is yes, walking away prematurely may cost you something meaningful. The educational takeaway is this. Meaningful love often asks for emotional courage before it offers certainty. If you leave at the first sign of discomfort, you may protect yourself from pain, but you also protect yourself from depth. Sometimes staying a little longer is not about clinging to hope, but about allowing truth to fully reveal itself. Emotional clarity does not come from intensity, overthinking, or constant analysis. It comes from observing patterns over time. This is a critical educational principle because the mind often fixates on isolated moments, especially emotionally charged ones. A single argument, a cold response, or an affectionate gesture can feel definitive in the moment, but none of these alone tell the full story. Patterns, not snapshots, reveal reality. Human beings are inconsistent by nature. Everyone has off days, stress reactions, and emotional fluctuations. If you judge a relationship based on isolated incidents, you will constantly feel confused. Emotional clarity requires zooming out and asking a more grounded question. What happens most of the time? Does this person generally show care, effort, and respect? Or do they repeatedly disappear, avoid responsibility, and leave you feeling unsettled? Repetition is the language of truth in relationships. This matters because the brain is prone to confirmation bias. When you fear abandonment, you notice every sign that supports that fear. When you crave reassurance, you overvalue small moments of affection. Patterns cut through these distortions. They provide evidence that is less influenced by mood and more aligned with reality. This is how emotional maturity replaces emotional reactivity. Another important lesson is that consistency in behavior creates emotional safety, while inconsistency creates hypervigilance. When someone's actions follow a predictable rhythm, your nervous system can relax. You stop bracing for emotional shifts. Clarity emerges because you no longer have to interpret mixed signals. If you constantly feel anxious, unsure, or emotionally on edge, it's often because the pattern itself is unstable, not because you're too sensitive. Patterns also reveal intention. Someone may claim they care, want a future, or value communication, but their repeated actions either support or contradict those claims. Intention without alignment is fantasy. When words and behavior consistently match, clarity naturally forms. You don't need to interrogate the relationship, it explains itself through behavior. It's also essential to observe how patterns evolve. Growth matters. Does the same issue repeat without change, or do you see adjustment and learning over time? A stagnant pattern signals emotional resistance. An improving pattern signals investment. Educational clarity is not about perfection, but about direction. Forward movement, even slow, indicates willingness. Repetition without repair indicates avoidance. Another overlooked aspect is your own pattern of response. Emotional clarity also comes from noticing how you feel most of the time in the connection. Are you generally calmer, more grounded, and more yourself? Or do you feel small, anxious, and constantly question your worth? Your emotional state is data. It reflects the environment you are in. Patterns are not only external, they are internal experiences that repeat. Observing patterns protects you from emotional manipulation. Love bombing, sudden withdrawals, and dramatic apologies can create emotional confusion if viewed in isolation. But when you step back and look at the cycle as a whole, clarity returns. You begin to see whether change is real or performative. Emotional clarity is a skill. It requires patience, self-trust, and the ability to tolerate uncertainty long enough to gather evidence. When you rely on patterns rather than emotional spikes, you stop chasing reassurance and start making decisions from stability. Clarity doesn't shout, it settles. And when you allow patterns to speak, they will always tell you the truth. At the end of all of this, the most important lesson is simple but powerful. Love is not a feeling you chase. It is an experience you observe. When someone truly loves you, their actions are consistent, their care shows up quietly when things are hard, and their presence remains steady even through uncertainty. Meaningful love asks for patience, not blindness, and courage, not self-betrayal. Before you give up, slow down enough to look at the full picture. Watch the patterns, notice how you feel over time, and trust what is repeatedly shown to you. Giving up should come from clarity, not fear, and staying should come from awareness, not hope alone. When love is real, it doesn't demand that you lose yourself to keep it. It invites you to grow, to feel safe, and to choose it consciously. And that kind of love, when it exists, is worth not walking away from too quickly.